So this is how to make an etching print part 2. In part 1 we created this black thing, which is it's an aluminium plate coated with a greasy black substance called ink ground. Now you can scratch through that with, well, I'm using here a thing called a steel scriber, sort of very sharp industrial grade steel needle. And it's a bit like one of those hobby crafts scratch paper things at this stage. So you just scratch a line design onto it at first. This will be etched, which will burn that line design into the metal plate. The lines then will retain ink. It'll soak into the lines and it'll print this line design onto plate paper later on. But we want to do a bit more than that. We want to add a lot of tonal value and large dark areas as well, not just lines. So the next stage with this is, well, you can see I'm just doing a quick sketch of an owl here. I'll just leave it at that. There he is, he's Owly McOwlface. So that now will go into the etching bath as a copper saline etch. I'll show you how to make that in a separate video. That stays in there for 5 to 10 minutes, and you can see it's burnt the line design into the plate. Now, adding the large dark areas and the tonal gradations is done by etching again and again and again, masking out slightly more at each stage. Where you mask the plate, you prevent the solution from corroding it. Now, this is just dusting the masked plate with something called aquatint. Well, this is just a protective spray. It causes the aluminium to corrode in a very coarse manner, which will retain ink very, very well in the dark areas. It's technical detail. The plate, which has got a mixture of varnish and fine detail, has been done by marker pen, which also resists the corrosive solution. It goes back in. You can see the corrosive solution is burning the aluminium black. It's doing that by releasing copper, which just looks, it's metallic copper, which just looks black in this image. It can be brushed off quite easily. The copper saline corrosive solution absolutely rips through aluminium. It's much more effective than the old-fashioned acids that used to be used, which they're unavailable these days. So it doesn't take long to corrode those large dark areas and the tonal gradations on. You get a feel for doing this. There's no strict timing. So that, yeah, brush the remains of the deposited copper off it, and that's the finished printing plate. So if I rotate it a bit to get the reflections, you can see that the shiny parts will not retain ink, the corroded parts will retain ink, and those will print black. So mixing up the ink now. The ink is basically it's lamp black mixed with linseed oil. It comes out of the tin as a thick buttery consistency. It's thinned down to the consistency of single cream using more linseed oil, and you do that by squidging it with a squeegee on a not metal plate. I could use a metal plate. I'm using a glass plate. It's just very easy to clean that up afterwards. So add a little bit more linseed oil bit by bit. That then's wiped onto the printing plate with the rubber squeegee. This is the process from hell. It's really messy. That then the ink has got to be forced into every little pit and corroded area onto the plate. That's done by using a very, very stiff cloth called tarlatan. It's a bit like cheesecloth, but it's very heavily starched. It's a very old-fashioned type of thing. Tarlatan's used to force the ink into the plate. Then the excess is wiped off with cheap newsprint paper, or chip wrapper we call that in the UK. again, you get a feel for doing this. It's done very, very gently. You can make a mess of the inking of the plate um, very easily at this stage. So when all of the excess ink is off, you plop it down onto the bed of the etching press. Try not to get ink everywhere. The paper is using a very heavy weight. This is a 300-gram paper, which is soaked to make it soft. It's soaked for maybe a couple of hours. The paper is such good quality, it just doesn't disintegrate. You splat it onto plastic sheets standing up against the wall and squeegee off the excess water with window cleaning squeegee. The damp paper then laid on top of the plate in the etching press, and another clean bit of newsprint, because you don't want the disaster scenario of something going wrong, ink getting all over those lovely clean felt, very, very expensive blankets which even the pressure out over the etching press. The roller there is exerting probably well over £1,000 per square inch pressure onto the bed of the press. It's rolled through very slowly at the rate of, say, a centimetre a second, something like that. So you can feel when the plate goes under the roller, and when it pops out the other side, you can speed up a bit. So, okay, the print has gone through the roller of the etching press there, blankets pulled back, chip wrapper taken away, and then there's, if you can get your fingernails under it, which is difficult, there's the ta-da moment where all is revealed, and there's Owly McElface in all his tonal graduation glory.